The Umbrella Academy came to an end, and on this video I'll recap and review season 4 of the Umbrella Academy, which used to be my favorite show on Netflix until this season. Personally, after watching the last season, I don't think season 4 was necessary. I don't know why they had to do it. I wish they would have ended it on season 3 and just left the characters living their lives without powers, but I guess that's just wishful thinking. You know, and what gets me mad is that they didn't even give us a full season. They gave us 6 episodes. At least give us 8. Honestly, it's been so long since season 3 ended that I completely forgot what happened to them last season. This is what I hate about streaming shows, that it takes so long for them to get them made. Like, we used to get 20 episodes per season. They used to film all those episodes over the summer, and by September, October, we had a brand new season each year. So I don't know why Hollywood decided to just become so lazy that it takes them 2 to 3 years to just make 8 episodes. Anyways, let's get on with the review. But before we begin, if you're new to my channel, hi, my name is Jene. Welcome to my channel. And on this channel, I like to post film and TV content as well as New York City content because that's where I live. So if you're into either one of those things, please consider subscribing. I post videos every week and I would love to have you join my growing community. Now, let's begin with episode 1 of season 4, which is titled The Unbearable Tragedy of Getting What You Want. In this episode, the family teams up to find a kidnapped Victor while attempting to adjust to normal life. Lila and Five probe a mysterious group called the Keepers. If you hear my AC, I apologize. It is on low, so I hope it's not as noticeable. But just in case you hear it, I'm sorry. It's just really hot in my apartment. So we open with the siblings adjusting to normal life and just blending into society without any powers. Victor moved to Canada and opened a bar. Luther is a stripper now, not a very good one. Lila and Diego got married and had kids. Allison got back into acting and is doing commercials now, and she's not really happy because she's not like an A-list celebrity anymore. Klaus is sober now and he became a germaphobe, and he now lives with Allison and her daughter. Ben was in jail for doing a crypto scam, and he was in jail for 4 years, so he gets out. And Luther picks him up, and he's like so excited to see him, but Ben is so miserable and like upset for no reason. So Ben moves in with Luther. And then Five works for the CIA. And let me just say something about Five. The actor that plays number 5, Aidan Gallagher, has not aged one bit. This guy was 16 when the show started and he's 21 now, and he looks the same. He hasn't aged not one bit. He still looks 13. So in episode 1, they are all planning to go to Diego's kid's birthday party, and they're like trying to convince Victor to come, but he doesn't want to come. He's in Canada, but he ends up going anyways. Then Five has been attending a support group, but then he finds out about another support group that's more like a cult called the Keepers. And that's when he runs into Lila, who has been lying to Diego. She tells him that she's going to a book club, but in reality, she's just like bored with her life without powers. So she goes to a support group called the Keepers, and she runs into Five. Well, Five sees her. He's like, "What are you doing here?" And she's pretending to be somebody else. So the Keepers believe that they're all living in the wrong timeline. And they're all waiting for something called the cleanse, which just happens to be the end of the world. Because that will restore the proper timeline back to where it was. The group is led by this crazy couple called Gean with a G and Gean with a J. And they've come in contact with a bunch of different artifacts from different timelines, including some marigold, which is how the siblings got their powers. So there's this guy named Cy Grossman, who later on we find out it's somebody else. But at this moment, he wants all the siblings to come back together to help him find his daughter. And his way of doing that is that he kidnapped Victor, so his siblings have to come find him. And they find him, and he tells them that he needs their help because his daughter, Jennifer, was kidnapped. And then at the end of the episode, they're all having dinner together, and Ben is like, "Oh, let's take some shots together." But in reality, he stole the marigold and he's gonna give it to all of them as a shot, but nobody knows. And he's an asshole now. I don't remember if he's banned from the Umbrella Academy or banned from the Sparrow Academy, because I don't remember him being such an asshole in previous seasons when he was dead. But anyways, he's like, let's all take shots, and he gives them all marigold in shot glasses, and that's how they get their powers back. Episode 2 is titled Gean and Jene. And in this episode, their powers are restored. The gang embarks on a mission to find Cy Grossman's daughter, but they soon encounter hostility in a seemingly quiet town. So Diego has this beat up wagon, just broken down, that barely works. And they drive 12 hours to this small town that looks like it could be somewhere in Maine. And the only one, at the beginning, the only one who doesn't have the powers is Klaus, because he says that, you know, that's why he was so messed up, like just an alcoholic and a drug addict, because of the powers. So he didn't want to take the marigold. So when they were all pretending to take shots, he just like threw the marigold behind his shoulders while nobody was watching. So he didn't take it. And they all noticed this because everyone woke up like feeling really sick except for Klaus. And that's when he tells them like, oh, I actually didn't take it. So all of them are in this beat up wagon driving to this town, and in Diego's car, the radio is broken and he only plays one annoying kid song. I forgot the name of the song. It's some popular song, but it just keeps playing on repeats. And this scene was so unnecessarily long, like it didn't have to be this long. And I'm sure they did it for comedic purposes, just to have all of them banter at each other, but it was just so annoying, just them driving nonstop, playing this song on repeat, and they kept playing the song on repeat on the episode for like a good 10 minutes. It was the Baby Shark song, because that song was getting so annoying, just playing on repeat, and I was getting annoyed. I'm like, what song is this? And I looked it up. It was Baby Shark. Finally, they get to this town, and Ben goes into a diner to get something to eat. They all separate immediately. And Ben runs into the owner of the diner. He starts talking to her, who just happens to be Jennifer, the Jennifer they're looking for, but he doesn't know this yet. And this whole scene with him and Jennifer at the diner just felt so rushed, because he sits down and he's already like, he's in a bad mood, that's his like natural state. And he sits down, she greets him, he like snaps at her, and she tells him this is not one of the diners where the customer's always right. So he calls her rude and asks to speak to the manager, and she's like, I'm the manager, actually I'm the owner. So he decides to leave, and then like 2 minutes later, we find out that this town is actually like a Truman Show for Jennifer. They're all pretending to like be normal, except for Jennifer, who's like the actual just regular living her life, but everyone there is just pretending to be normal. They're like assassins, and as soon as the Umbrella Academy shows up, everyone stops pretending and tries to kill them all. The people of the town try to kill the Umbrella Academy. So like 2 minutes later, Ben is talking to Jennifer, and all of a sudden they're like in love with each other. And the sheriff who was at the diner, he tells her to get away from Ben. And apparently the sheriff raised Jennifer, but Jennifer doesn't listen to him and she runs off with Ben. The whole storyline with Ben and Jennifer just felt rushed. So it turns out that Jennifer has powers, but she doesn't know this yet. She was found inside a giant squid. And they don't really explain how she got inside the giant squid. They just show, they do a flashback of like these fishermen. They found this enormous squid, and then the news is there covering them, and out of nowhere, they see this little hand like touching the skin of the squid. And then she comes out of it, and she's like this baby, she's about maybe 7 or 8. But it is never explained how she got inside of it. So Gean and Jene are looking for her because they believe she's the one that's going to start the cleanse. So because of the type of powers that she has, if she comes into contact with Ben, that's what triggers the cleanse. It's like a chemical reaction. If you mix them up together, the cleanse begins. And then the end of the world happens. But they don't know any of this at this time in the show. They're just like in love and trying to run away together. So they all finally get out of the town and they're trying to run away in the minivan. And Klaus gets shot, but he's like dying, and the only way to bring him back is to give him the marigold. But he never wanted it because that's what's gonna get him addicted to drug again. But they do give him the marigold so he could survive. And then out of nowhere, Gean and Gean hit them with a car and they kidnap Jennifer because Jennifer is with them at this time. So now we move on to episode 3, which is titled The Squid and the Girl. And in this episode, the group splits up to find Jennifer. Later on, they pay Reginald a visit. Reginald is their dad, confronting memories that hold critical clues to their mission. So they all go talk to their dad, who is a different version of their dad. This dad is from a different timeline that happens to be in this timeline. So they all go to his house to confront him, and they learn how Ben actually died, because the whole time they never really knew how he died because their memories were wiped clean. But it turns out that the dad from the other timeline killed Ben because when they were kids, they went on this mission. And Ben actually found Jennifer as a child. She was trapped inside some tank. And he got her out, and then out of nowhere, the dad comes out and shoots both of them. And that's how Ben died in the other timeline. So this Jennifer is just a different version in this timeline that they're on right now. All these timelines are so confusing. Just please stop with the multiverse. It's so confusing to me sometimes. Anyway, so 5, his powers now, every time he saps, he goes into the same train station. He like doesn't know how to go anywhere else. So every time he like travels through time, he goes into this one train station where the trains go between timelines. So if you want to go to another timeline, you go to the station, get on the train, and it will bring you someplace to another timeline. So after he figures this out, that these trains go to another timeline of the same moment, him and Lila decide to go explore and find more clues of how they could like prevent this cleanse. So while they're doing this, they start getting a little too close. Then later on in this season, they end up getting on the wrong train, and they go on an express train and they get lost. And they spend 7 years trying to find their way back home. But even though it was 7 years from them, like traveling through time, it was only 2 hours for Diego. It was only 2 hours that his wife was missing. So during those 7 years that they're just traveling through time, trying to find their way back, they fall in love and have a little fling, which was so weird because this boy is 13. I mean, in reality, he's 58. He's an old man trapped in a young boy's body. But, to any person seeing this, it's this grown-ass woman with kids falling in love with this 13-year-old boy. That whole storyline with Lila and Five falling in love and like making out was so weird. I would much rather have Five falling in love with a mannequin than Lila. So we go to episode 4, which is titled The Cleanse. And in this episode, after learning the truth about Jennifer, the crew sets out to find her and Ben. Klaus hustles to escape his plight. Five and Lila try to change the past. So Klaus had a whole storyline that I didn't care for. It had nothing to do with the main storyline, but I guess that's a common theme with his character. He gets kidnapped by this mobster who, after he finds out about Klaus's power, that he can talk to the dead and he's immortal, he makes him work for him so he could pay off his debt. So anyone that wants to talk to their dead relatives or anyone that they know that passed and they want to talk to him in the afterlife, they can come see Klaus, but they have to pay the mobster money. Long story short, Klaus gets buried alive, and then Allison and her daughter come and save him. So we move on to episode 5, which is titled 6 years, 5 months, and 2 days. And in this episode, Lila and Five get lost traversing various timelines. Meanwhile, Victor and Reginald aim to stop Ben, whose union with Jennifer sets forth a lethal path. So this is the episode where Five and Lila have their little fling. Ben and Jennifer have sexual intercourse and they start the cleanse. And this cleanse situation is so gross and disgusting. You think it's gonna be a bomb, But it's just like Ben and Jennifer slowly transform into like their skin just becomes like I don't even know what it is. It's like little bubbles. They start bursting and just like spreading, and eventually they like morph into one thing through this one huge roach looking rat situation. It was so disgusting. I don't know who designed this or thought of this idea, but it was gross. And then we learned that Cy Grossman, he was actually Reginald's wife, who is an alien. You know, they're both aliens. So Reginald's wife killed this person named Cy Grossman, and she kind of morphed into him. She like emptied out his insides and used his body as a suit, as like a costume, you can say. And then at the end of this episode, she kills Gean with the G, the husband, and she empties out his organs and then jumps inside of his skin and now is pretending to be him. So finally we go to episode 6, which is the end. And on this episode we learn that there's only one timeline. And when Reginald's planet, because Reginald, the dad, is an alien, when his planet was destroyed, Reginald released this marigold, and then it landed on the one original timeline, and it landed on all the pregnant moms. So all these moms observed the marigold, which that's how their babies were born in an instant, and they were born with powers. And that's how the Umbrella Academy was born. And because of this marigold landed on the babies, and then babies being born with powers, the timeline split into multiple timelines. So in order for the timeline to be back to its original course and just be back to normal, all the marigold has to disappear. So meaning all the siblings have to die and be cleansed of the timeline. So by now, Ben and Jennifer are, you know, I just realized it's like Ben and Jen, like Benifer. I'm just thinking of Ben and Jennifer Lopez, Ben Affleck. Anyways, so by now, they're like turned into this giant blob. It's so gross. It's just walking around everyone. I mean, around everywhere, destroying everything. And the siblings accept their fate. They hold hands. And then the blob comes for them and they cease to exist. And all the extra timelines disappear and it goes back to the original timeline where the Umbrella Academy doesn't exist. So one thing about this ending that was like, had me asking questions was that Lila and Diego and Allison have children. And they explain that once, you know, in order to go back to the original timeline, the Allison, Diego, Lila, and all their siblings have to pretty much die and cease to exist. And it'll be like they never existed. And Lila doesn't want her kids to like die. So she takes Allison's daughter and her kids and her parents, and she puts them into the train. She brings them to the train. And they go to another timeline. Not Lila, she puts her family in the train with the children. So they could go to a different timeline. And at the end, we see the kids in this new timeline and the original timeline just living their lives. But my question is, once we go back to the original timeline and the Umbrella Academy doesn't exist, they never existed in this timeline, wouldn't their offsprings also disappear because they're a product of the Umbrella Academy? They're a product of Diego and Lila and Allison, but we see them just living normally in this new timeline, which didn't make sense. Because if their parents cease to exist and they never existed, they're supposed to never be born in this timeline. Their children wouldn't be born either. Anyways, that was not clear to me how that happened. And at the end, we also see other characters from like previous seasons just like living normal lives in this new timeline. They're all in this garden just playing and having fun. And season 4 ended how season 1 started, with a voiceover from Reginald saying, "On October 12th, nothing out of the ordinary happened." Overall, I think this season was very weak. It was the weakest of all the seasons. In previous seasons, I would watch all 8 episodes in 2 days. This season, it took me like a week because I did not care for what was happening. I did not care to know what was coming next. It took me like a full week to watch all 6 episodes. And I guess maybe the creators wanted to wrap the season, wrap the show the right way and not leave the characters just wandering in limbo and having people wonder like what the characters are doing. But I'd rather they just left it at season 3 because I don't think this season was necessary at all. I did like Gean and Gean, and I thought that Megan Mullally and Nick Offerman did a great job portraying these 2 characters. Gean with a J, the wife, ends up dying at the end because after the alien takes over the body of Gean with a G, you know, Gean with a G starts acting different, and Gean with a J, the wife, notices, and she's like questioning, like, what is going on with you? Like, you don't talk like this. And Gean with a J kills Gean with a G. No, Gean with a G kills Gean with a J. So the husband kills the wife. But it's really the alien that kills Gean with a J, the wife. I wish they would have spent more time with these 2 characters because I thought they were really good. And for me, they were the best part of this whole season. So if they would have given us 8 episodes, they could have spent a full episode just showing us their backstory, how they came across all these artifacts from different timelines, how they started this movement with the Keepers. But we don't really get much of them throughout the episode, throughout the season. But when they're in an episode, they're like the best part of the episode. I really like them too. Maybe they'll do like a spin-off, the Geans, Gean with a J, Gean with a G, their backstory, and we could have 8 episodes of the Geans creating the Keepers. There's an idea, Netflix. Overall, this season was a bit disappointing. I didn't care for Klaus's storyline. I didn't care for Lila and Five. That whole romance was weird. The Clint's, this giant cockroach looking blob, was not that exciting. I didn't like that it was only 6 episodes and a lot of the stuff felt rushed. I don't know if Netflix didn't give them enough money this time around. Like, they could have spent 1 episode explaining the whole town with Jennifer, another episode with Gean and Gean. That's 8 episodes right there. So, in conclusion, the final season of the Umbrella Academy was just meh to me. It wasn't really that good. And although it was nice of Netflix to give us a final season because they are notorious for just ending shows out of the blue, I'm looking at you, Glow. I just wish that they would have given us a little more. And with that, the Umbrella Academy came to an end, and I gotta say, it made me want to watch the first season all over again because that was a really good season. And that is the review. Comment below and share your thoughts about the ending of the Umbrella Academy. Were you disappointed or were you happy with how it ended? Comment below and share. Thank you for watching. I hope you have a great day or night wherever you are in the world. Until next time, bye.